7:05. So everybody stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we go into public comments, can I have a motion to add to the agenda to approve the minutes from the June 17th, 2025 meeting?
So moved.
Motion by Al,
Second.
second by Bob. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 6-0. Okay, thank you. Public comment?
John Lombardo, 31 Union Street, for the owner of Butcher Barn Martial Arts and Fitness. And just wanted to come in tonight to give you guys an update on our community events. So on June 28th, we did our Trash Bash community cleanup, and we collected 55.5 pounds of trash in the downtown area. The weather was a little off in the morning of that day, and we also conflicted, I should say, with a cleanup, and the Boy Scouts did in Oxford that morning as well. So some of our students did Oxford, and then they came down and helped us as well, so which was pretty cool. But we want to do that again. We want to do a couple of them maybe every quarter or something like that. My student Alex spearheaded the whole thing, and I thought it was really cool that he did it. And unfortunately, it was conflicted too. So I got there and I'm like, where all this trash come from? It literally was small pieces of it. It wasn't like bulk trash. It literally was just, it came out to 55.5 pounds. Just community center, downtown Main Street, by the train station and stuff. So I thought that was a pretty big success, and I was very proud of him coming up with this idea and then having us present it. So I want to thank First Selectwoman and everybody else that supported it and communicated it out. So hopefully we can get bigger turnouts for the future ones. And then our next community event is my annual free women's self-defense class. We're going to do that on August 9th at my school in Seymour, and this will be our 5th year doing that. Every year we tweak it, we add to it. So last year we added to do high school and college age students as well, as they were getting ready to either change schools or move on to secondary education and stuff like that. Some of the parents had asked me if we can include them instead of just going targeting older adults. And that worked out really well last year. So we've expanded that to them again this year. We're going to do that on the 9th. I've sent the flyer and the information into the First Selectwoman. We're going to start creating the event on social media this week and push that out. So hopefully we keep getting bigger and bigger. Last year was the biggest one. Unfortunately, last year was also on the day of the flood, so we're hoping this year we're doing it a week early. Yeah. So but we're doing well with that. So that's our next one. We try to do one a quarter. So if there's anything anybody wants us to do moving forward, just throw ideas at us. We look to support them. A lot of my high school age students are really looking at ways to give into the community. And if nobody also knows, the diner's open, by the way. I was there twice already in the last 24 hours. Card store is imminent, and UPS is still not open. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Any other public comment? Great, thank you. Close public comment. Item number 4 is to set a public hearing for August 5th, 2025 at 6:15 in the Norma Drummer Room, Seymour Town Hall, 1 First Street, Seymour, Connecticut, to discuss the following changes to the blight ordinance as recommended by the Board of Selectmen Ordinance Committee. May I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Motion by Trish,
Seconded.
second by Pat Lombardi. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 7-0, sorry. Item number 5, set a public hearing on Tuesday, August 5th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. in the Norma Drummer Room, Seymour Town Hall, 1 First Street, Seymour, Connecticut, to discuss the following draft report as submitted by the Charter Revision Commission. Everybody received electronic copies of that and a red line charter. That is for everybody to look at and give their feedback on for the August 5th when we go to public meeting. Can I have a motion?
Make a motion to set the public hearing for Tuesday, August 5th, 2025 at 6:30 in the Norma Drummer Room for the
Second.
Charter Revision Commission.
Motion by Trish, second by Al Bruno. Discussion?
Can I just ask what the next step is after that?
Her microphone's not working.
Can I just ask what the next step is after the August 5th meeting? Thank you.
After the August 5th meeting, that is when, and Kurt, correct me if I'm wrong, it comes to us. We then look at it and we can either accept their report. I believe we can make changes to the report, we can add to the report, and then I believe it goes out. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, if you make changes to anything, then you need to meet one more time with the Charter Revision Commission, so that would be scheduled on the 19th. And then your drop dead date for making final decisions is September 2nd to make the ballots in November. Attorney Leclerc will be at our meeting on the 5th to kind of walk you through. He was he represented Birch and Moses during the charter process, so he's kind of the gatekeeper of all the facts. So.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Can I may have a motion to add to the agenda after executive session, Chief Buccarati to update the board on the speeding grant and the traffic control on Maple and, that was done on Maple and Pearl.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Pat, second by Al. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Okay. Item number 6, executive session. Oh, I also need to update and contract negotiation with the Seymour Police Department and also add Public Works Union. Oh, yeah, sorry, you're right. Add, you're right, Al. Thank you, Al.
Yeah.
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the June 17th, 2025 meeting?
So moved.
Motion by Pat,
Second.
second by Bob. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Noes?
Abstain.
Abstain? Thank you. Chair votes aye, motion carries 5-0-2. Please note Pat Lombardi and Teresa Conroy's abstentions. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to go into executive session? We'll start with the Seymour Police Union, inviting Attorney Leclerc, Attorney Bertula, Kurt Miller, and Chris Pelosi, as well as Chief John Buccarati. And Deputy Chief Mike Vapiano. Thanks, Chief.
So moved.
Motion by Al,
Second.
second by Teresa. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 7-0. Excuse us while we go into executive session. Please make sure all the microphones are off. You are, but I gotta wait for him to turn the cameras on. Did you turn the microphone on?
No, I just want to get the green light to come on.
Red button, maybe?
Yeah.
Red button, just above your finger there.
Green light.
There we go.
Green light, go. Let me know when you're ready, Rob. Can I have a motion to come out of executive session?
So motion.
Al?
Second.
Motion by Pat,
Yeah.
second by Al.
Noting that there were no votes or any other items discussed during the executive session.
All in favor?
Aye.
Noes? Abstentions?
I abstain.
Please note Fred Stanek's abstention. Thank you. Okay, next on the item is Chief Buccarati to give an update on the speeding grant and traffic control on Maple Street. Chief and Deputy
Do you
Chief.
have any preference on what you'd like to go over first?
Since Select Person Conroy asked for this person.
I'll leave it up to you.
Okay. So I'll address Maple and Pearl
Okay.
first. So as you know, there's been a lot of complaints about Maple and Pearl, that light. A couple of years ago, I actually petitioned the state to take ownership of that light. The state refused. That light is about 50 or 60 years old. They won't. That is the only light besides Main and Bank that the town actually owns. So I actually petitioned them for that one too. They said no, because the light is so old that they will not take ownership of it and will not maintain it. In order for them to do that, we would have to upgrade the light in the intersection according to the manual for uniform traffic control devices. Okay, that cost in and of itself is well over $1 million to upgrade a light. Now, what we did, there was some questions on whether we could remove the light altogether at Maple and Pearl and just have a four-way stop sign. So the town hired the engineering services, and they conducted what's called a warrant study. Every signal in the state actually has to be warranted, for lack of a better term. You need you have to have justification to have the signal there. So they did. Traffic engineers came out and they did a warrant study for Maple and Pearl, and they did find that light is necessary there for traffic control. It met two of the. There's actually 9 separate warrants. A lot of them didn't apply for us. The 2 big ones were the 8-hour and 4-hour volumes. And we had enough traffic there to satisfy the light. That light is needed. So now, really, we need that light. The light needs to be upgraded, and we just have to find the money to do it. Because even with that light there, if we want automated traffic enforcement there for the red lights, which is a common complaint that we get there, and that intersection does qualify with the amount of accidents we've had over the several past years. The last year, thank God, it's been quiet. So in order to get automated enforcement, the light has to be upgraded and in place for at least a year before we can deploy automated enforcement there.
Is that like red light cameras?
Cameras, yeah,
Okay,
red light cameras.
Thank you.
So it's kind of up to the town what they want to do with that light. We still have to maintain it. It's still warranted there. So in the future, if we could possibly explore upgrading the light, and the intersection itself would have to be upgraded to make the sidewalks ADA compliant. There's a whole host of things that have to happen at that intersection, and Brian and I were just talking about it. We spoke about it numerous times in the past with that, and it's going to cost a lot of money. It's going to, it's a significant investment to upgrade that intersection. So, does anybody have any questions with that, or?
So in the meantime, if there's any kind of malfunctions or anything like that, that's the town's
That is
responsibility.
the town's responsibility.
To be maintaining that.
Yes.
So did the state do a study there or no?
The state really, it's kind of incumbent on us to do the
Okay.
study. I asked for the state to do something on Maple Street. I'm not sure what they could do. to do a study there. I mean, the big one was this traffic light, and if the light wasn't warranted, okay, we could take it out. It's less of an expense for us. We put a 4-way stop in, and I think everyone's happy. But the light's warranted. It's needed. So-
And how about, I know like there's no turn on red dangling there,
Yeah, we
but
have
like
to.
there's
we,
one of them
we-
right now
if-
facing.
sometimes the wind blows, they change, so we have to have Public Works go and change.
And how about, I'm just been doing some thinking, yellow lights, I mean, could you make that a longer so they're not blowing through all these red
So
lights? or-
we actually, we could ask the state to do something like that. We don't know how to program those.
Okay.
Those lights are so old. I actually had to go in and look at them. There's like mouse
Sure.
nests and
Yep.
stuff in there. They're old. And there's a whole timing sequence that has to be input by whoever run, because you could really screw up traffic if it's too long or too short on certain sides. So that's something I wouldn't really mess with.
And then one last one, which is, I'm not a big favor of it, but I know down on Route 34 back in the day when we were just piloting rumble strips, we did it on 34 and that
Mhm.
helped cut down accidents. Do they do those at intersections so
Uh,
that people slow down or no?
I'd have to look into it. I don't know if they would do something like that
Yeah.
at that intersection.
I'm just trying before we really have a bad accident. 'cause
So
I know
we are addressing certain things with speeding on Maple Street. So we now I'll move into the grant just and answer some questions on that too. So the state in late April made us aware that we were eligible for a grant for speeding enforcement. So what I did was, now with anything with the state, it's always, you have to have a purpose for the grant. You can't just apply for it and just say we want to run radar. So what I did was downloaded the every accident that we do is sent to the state DOT, automatically by our computer system. And it is, every data point on those accidents is something that's searchable. So I went and found all the accidents in the last 5 years that were caused by speed. And we were able to identify 5 different spots in town that had the most concentration of accidents. Maple and 313 in Rimmon there, that was one of the big places. Bungay Road, South Main Street, Route 34, and Holbrook Road. So we've addressed actually Holbrook Road. So and I'm taking the crash data from the last 5 years. We can do other places as well, but most of the crashes happened on a Saturday or a Monday. And so we actually have time. I was able to break it down into time frames, and that's how I was able to get justification for the grant. So what we're doing with the grant is we have enough for several 12-hour shifts during the week, which we hire a person back on overtime, and it's strictly for traffic enforcement. And that's how we're going to do. We just started on Saturday. We ran a 4-hour block on Saturday. We ran a 8-hour block on Monday. I have them scheduled out all the way through August. So at the end of the grant, I have to provide statistics back to the state, which I'll be happy to share with you guys when we're done. But overall, we're stopping a lot of cars. We actually, our car stops from last year to this year. This year, last time we had 1,201 car stops. Right now we're at 1,535. So we've been, we see the complaints, we hear the complaints, and we try to address them as best we can. Now with Maple Street as well, we just received 2 signs from the state that were given to us. They were, we have a partnership with the T2 Center up at UConn. They gave us 2 of those your speed signs, so we're going to permanently install one because we find that those signs help. They reduce speed. So we're going to probably permanently install one up on Maple Street near the Warren Street area where we have our trailer right now. And then another one we're going to install on Washington Ave because I get a lot of complaints on Washington Ave, use it as cut through. So hopefully that will reduce the speed there. And that's all I got. Does anybody have any questions or?
No, thank you.
You're welcome. That's it. It's painless.
Thank you. That's painless.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. You're welcome.
Discussion and, all right, on to item number 8. Discussion and possible action regarding the draft on new delinquent tax payment policies. This will be finalized August 5th, and we have Dana Flack, our tax collector, here. But you're not here to discuss that. You're here, but in your packet, You have it? Right, it says draft. So, look this up, this is just, we always have policies and procedures in place. This is a policy and procedure that is written. We didn't have one in writing, we had it just verbal, right? So this is for everybody to look at, not set in stone. Well, it is set in stone, but it's subject to thoughts and opinions. Right, set in stone meaning that there is a procedure. Set in stone. So if everybody can just take this, look at it, and then come back on August 5th with your thoughts, your opinions, and we could talk about it, integrate it, vote on it, and then put it into place. Okay? All right, we'll do that. Item number 9, the reason why Dana's really here. Well,
No, I can't take any questions for that.
okay. Does anybody have any questions?
You have questions, ask.
Yeah.
Well, then we're gonna go over it again at the next meeting, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So if you have stuff now and you want clarification to add to.
Do you want me to-
look into
Go
the
ahead.
report, then
Okay,
you can.
all right, so I did go through it, and it's a great, start, but a few of the questions I had on here, was just the language in here. And I
Dana, if
know
you can come up to the
We have our
microphone.
attorney here that maybe can help out too. And I'll give this to you, Dana, if you want to just look through it. Some of it was, taxpayers are given 10 days to respond, but the town generally allows action through the end of the month. I mean, that just sounds kind of vague, like we have a date of, 10 days, but then
It's-
maybe.
When we do a demand, it's structured that it's already printed on there. You have 10 days to respond.
Right.
We generally let them go till the end of the month to make their,
But I just didn't know we should have that in our policy like that. I mean, I'm looking at our,
well, that's just showing us that we're more accommodating than other towns. Other towns strictly enforce the 10-day thing, and then they send it off to the marshal or to foreclosure, stuff like that. We are trying to be,
okay.
we're not looking to own property, we're trying to work with the taxpayers.
Right, right, I get it. And then the other part was, it says, the account goes to the marshal, collections, or foreclosure.
Mhm.
Why is there 3 different options?
Because those are the options we allow. I mean, most cars, we've been going to the marshal, or the collection agency, or to the attorneys for the foreclosures. That's
Okay.
what our options are.
And, the tax office, so for you, Dana, it says, to discuss hardship circumstances. What authority do you have to be able to do whatever you need to say to them with these hardships? I mean, if somebody comes in and says, I've been out of work for a month,
Yeah.
somebody comes in and says, I've been out of work for a day, I mean,
We just use discretion of what we offer them. We don't have a formal payment plan, which is stated there. We ask them, you make a payment every month. If you can't make the payment, we ask you to call. We try to say we do not like to have to follow up
Right.
on you. It's your responsibility to make a payment, and we understand that things happen. We're
Right.
not, we're not wishing any more bad luck on you, but if your car breaks down or something, I can't make that payment this month. And that's what we ask you to let us know. And then but if you constantly, if you go like 2-3 months without paying anything, we're calling you back up and
Sure.
saying, our demand is gonna be reissued and you will go to further, your payment plan is not going to be honored.
right,
You're gonna end up getting, force, which is 15% more fee. Everybody's at least a 15% fee.
Right.
It goes to the marshal or to collection agency. We know you're struggling, we don't want that, but, and it's amazing that some people we will end up sending to the marshal, and the next day they pay the marshal and pay the fees, and
Wow.
and it's full.
Amazing.
It's
Isn't
not
that
us.
miraculous
So it's, you don't know
sure.
their thought process.
And then, just under motor vehicle delinquency, it says town will make reasonable attempts. What does that mean when you say reasonable attempts? Is it like once, twice?
No,
five times?
we see how far behind they are. Now that they have 3 years to re-register their vehicles, that makes it more difficult for us to enforce it, because people didn't, we definitely got them before they wanted to re-register their vehicles.
Right.
We do what we can to, if they go over $1,000 or a couple of years, we send the demands out,
Okay, and why don't we have a payment plan option?
because we don't want to enforce that. That it's not something we should have to do.
The question is, I just had, it's
Because if you have
more,
a payment plan, you're gonna sign it, and what do we have? We don't have any legality to enforce that. And there's only 2 in our office to try to do all that we do. We do
Right.
very well for the collections that we do.
I'm just looking at like more of protecting you with this policy.
We follow state
Vague.
statutes. We follow state statutes and the state laws that we have, and do what we can. I didn't take any input from you.
Well,
Hold
Dana's
on a minute.
absolutely right. The the options, she laid out the three options. There are different statutory remedies in terms of how you collect delinquent taxes. The collector can choose between the three remedies. There's a fourth remedy that is actually partially with the collector and also with you folks, where you have the ability to sell a lien portfolio. So there's basically four different options. Many communities use payment plans, but payment plans, Dana is right, payment plans are not authorized in the Connecticut general statutes. That is something that's done in a discretionary basis by a municipal collector to try to work with a taxpayer. That's basically it. And, it's discretionary because you're doing it because maybe somebody has hardship and you're trying to give them a chance to catch up because we're not in the business of trying to take people's homes or property. So Dana basically summed it up. Her remedies are all statutory. They're authorized by statute. And the payment plan is a wholly discretionary vehicle.
Well, if you're comfortable with it, because this is your, job in life.
Like I said, we
Make
didn't
sure
have
you're
it in
well
writing. Anne Marie
protected.
said we didn't have it in writing. Now we have it in writing and for you to approve. This is what we've been operating on all along. This is what we do.
Al?
So, yeah, I've done work like this actually. When I worked with Rich at Bertram, we had payment plans, but you have to be on the same page with the town, the leadership, your, your collector, and you have to put parameters in if you allow that payment plan. And if they breach it one time, it's time to foreclose. You know what I mean? That's what we used to do for a certain municipality in the Bridgeport area. So it worked out well, but it can be a little extra work. And we had a great rate of collection with it. But when people don't, if you've already filed a claim for foreclosure, it could become stale and then kicked out, so to speak. So you have to be careful with that. You have to really stay on it. But if we don't want to do it as a community, we don't have to, like Rich said.
That's correct.
It's wholly up to the client in that regard when I was doing that work. But you have to be vigilant with it if you do it, because people will lie to you to string it out. So.
Any other questions for Dana? Or regarding this policy? We'll take it
Fred-
back.
Fred has-
Oh, sorry, Fred.
If I may, I'm not in favor of using the Marshall system.
I know that you've expressed that.
I think there are constitutional issues in the statutes with regard to the Marshall system, and I think, like you said, the tax warrant is turned over to the Marshall, people pay the next day, Marshall gets 15%.
And there's some that he can't collect for months, and he goes after the bank does the bank executions. I can do a bank execution too. I don't have the staff to keep up with that, so we have him. He does
I
that. And
understand.
we've been getting very good results with that. With him
I've
doing
seen
either
it.
on his own, collecting from people month, and he has payment plans with them too, that he gets the payments that we get. Some people pay $50, we get $43 or $48 that they come in on weekly or monthly from some of these people. And when, like I said, we've given them their demands, we've given them their extra month to make an arrangement with us. We have nothing, and then we send you to the Marshal, and then you're making payments with them, but you weren't making them with us.
I understand this about by statute, and all the tax
Yeah.
collectors usually utilize that system, but
Yeah.
I'm just not in favor of it.
Yes, I understand on some of it. I don't, trust me, I don't like it when they get 15% for doing
That's
sending out
why
a letter
we-
when we've done everything
Yeah.
we can, months and months, and we
Yeah.
get nothing.
Dana, that's why the community I'm talking about,
Yeah.
I want to say their name.
Yeah.
They preferred foreclosures, and
Yeah.
it did cost a little more, but you could get a lot of that
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
But the point is, like you said, the town's not in the business
Mhm.
of taking real estate from people. But that said, when the vast majority of the community is paying their taxes,
Mhm.
and there's that 5 to 7% that aren't,
Mhm.
they have to pay their taxes.
Mhm.
Once it's accumulated up to a certain amount
yeah, yeah.
of money, it's worth foreclosing.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
Dana, can you tell me what your collection rate is?
It's 98, it was 98.33 for the end of June.
No, no.
Real
I
estate-
know what it is. I just wanted it to
I
be
said
put
it.
out there. I know it,
Real
and it's
estate is
excellent.
It was 99.1%.
Yep.
No, I know. I just wanted it out there.
Yeah,
That sounds
yeah,
excellent.
99. Well,
That's excellent.
Yeah.
For just the two of you in the office, you do an excellent job.
thank you. And, you know, we do some success, some things it's beyond, you know, failure that we try to do that, you know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, everything else good?
Can I ask one question?
Go ahead.
And it's going to be 2 seconds. This is great. I think this entire thing is great. I just think if we're going to indicate bill, and we all know this, bills are due July 1st and become delinquent after August 1st, and we have that full month to make the payment. We've got to get the bills out before July 1st, because I had comments from my neighbors on why is it saying it's due July 1st and I'm not getting a bill till after July
This year
1st?
was-
And I'm explaining you have the whole month to pay, and they're telling me I don't, that's not the point.
This year was delayed mail, and because we struggled with deciding when to mail them. We were gonna mail them on Friday the 27th, or Monday the 30th. They were postmarked on Monday the 30th. Why they took till the 3rd and 4th to the 7th to get bills out, I do not know. We do not collect money until the 1st. Other towns do. We do not, for auditing purposes. The auditors prefer, it's cleaner. It's a lot easier to make the break in the new fiscal year to do that. So we don't collect the money till till July 1st, so that's why we mail it. And also do say till January. I mean, till August 1st they do have the whole month.
Dana, is there a reason why we can't mail the bills on June
Because
1st?
if they mail them, they would come in and people come in to mail them.
I know, but I have to ask that question, right?
And
But
Yes.
if someone came in a day early, I hope we're not turning them away.
technically, we're not supposed to post it until July. We aren't,
You're
Our
You
not
take it, you just
allowed,
don't cash it until a couple,
we
you
do
can't
not post
process
it.
it.
If an attorney sends their check in from a closing or something like that, we do put that aside till July 1st, and we post it on July 1st.
yeah, okay. I just, if someone comes in to pay a tax bill a
No,
day or
and
two
we-
early
we
though,
have-
you might, I just don't want to turn them away, like, don't pay your tax bill, you have to come back in a day or two. Because
Yes, we don't
sometimes
like it
people,
out there, like even saying it here, like we
Right.
don't like it out there to say that we would do that, yes. Because our normal policy is that we do not take payments until July 1st, for the auditing purposes.
And you certainly don't have any control over what the U.S. mail does.
And the place that we use to use our mailing, I called up on Monday, I said, we're getting so many people didn't
Yep.
get this. She says, we definitely postmarked it on the 30th, and they went out on the 30th. They were having the postal rep there that day, they were gonna ask where it was in case it got, I have no idea why it was this long this time. Some people today have not received their bills, they were calling up and stuff, so.
It's good to hear that some people want to pay right away.
Well, they do and they don't. They want to know, they have questions,
what
and
they
they will wait till the last minute to pay.
okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, the real reason why Dana's really here. Yep. Item number 9, discussion and possible action regarding the tax abatement for 25 Walnut Street. This was on we received this back in, I think it was in October of last year, where we had to abate the property because this is town now owned property. We're fixing a 30-year ago issue. Really. So this will be the last time that will come in front of us now for an abatement because it will be taken off the grand list and it will now become open space for the town. Correct? So we just need to approve the tax abatement for 25 Walnut Street.
Make a motion to approve the tax abatement for 25 Walnut Street in the amount of $6,577.96.
Motion by Trish. Second by Bob. Discussion. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Now the long-awaited one. Discussion and possible action on town engineer Brian Asteriak for the fiscal 2026 road plan. Hello,
Good
Brian.
evening. For the record, Brian Syriac, professional engineer with B&B Engineering. I have a few things to hand out here. Pass it down. Pass it down. Here's the stuff.
I thank Beth for putting this together for me, please.
I put it together, thank you. But I will thank you. I'll get to the handout in a second. I'll just start by just going through where we are and what we're doing. Many of you might already know, but I'll just kind of repeat it. So I'll just start with the big one, Bungay. There's
Bungie.
What?
It's Bungie, it's not
Bungie?
Bungay. Yeah.
Sorry.
Say
Um,
either.
So,
Says Jamillo.
5
Bungay.
phases in all, starting with phase 0. There's a long story with that.
Sorry.
May I continue?
Yes. All right, Millie.
So, phase 0 was Botsford Road, was a mill and repave, some drainage work. That is 100% complete. It's been paved, curbed, new drainage, landscaping. There's a
beautiful.
couple little repairs we got to do up there. It's even been striped. Phase 1 was from basically the high school down to Balanced Rock. That is mostly done. We have new pavement on there. All the drainage is done. The walls. There's the first course of asphalt, and left to do would be the top course of asphalt, which we'll do at the end of the project, and then some landscaping as well. And now they're in phase 2, which is from Balance Rock down to Bungay Terrace. They are reclaiming the road right now. They're putting in all the drainage. They built 2 retaining walls. They're pouring concrete sidewalks right now. They're on track to pave that section by the end of the month. And then they will move on to phase 3, which is Bungay Terrace to Nor Ave, and do the exact same thing. And finally, phase 4 will be from Nor Ave down to the Historical Society. The hope is to get all of this done, paved, and everything but maybe some landscaping done before the end of the year. The contractor does have until, I think it's June 5th of next year to do this, but they are trying very hard to get this done before the end of the year so that they can get out of there and on to the next job, and so that the impact isn't as bad as everybody's experience.
Can I just stop you right there? Because
Sure.
since we're talking about Bungie, I've received several complaints from residents stating, like today, that their Uber driver couldn't get up to get them, and they live on West Church Street prior to the construction starts. So if you could, yeah. The construction started at Bungie, from Bungie to Balance, and this was on West Church Street. A resident had called. She had an Uber driver to take her to a doctor's appointment, and she could not. The police officer wouldn't let her go through. So maybe some communication there that if the people, homeowners or Uber drivers need to get there, if they can let them through. Number one, and then we are getting complaints about the mail men not, or the male people not delivering their mail again. So
Recently?
yeah, like some person didn't get their mail from Wednesday of last week and they finally got it on Saturday.
I've talked to the postmaster numerous times, and every time it's settled and taken care of.
We
complaint
know
like
we've had this
comes
argument
in.
with
So
them.
I don't know the root of the cause of this. The contractor knows to get out of the way for the mailman. I'll continue to ask. I'll continue to talk to them. I'll talk to the postmaster if there's some changes. But everybody that I talk to says they're making every accommodation that they possibly can for the postman, and they're not sure why the mail isn't being delivered.
Okay.
But I'll bring it up
I
again.
wanted, and I forgot. But
As
go
far
ahead.
as West Church, we're not even down there.
I know.
That being said, the gas company has come in. They have to offset a few areas because it's in the way of some of the drainage, and maybe they were down there. I don't exactly know today. They don't necessarily let us know. But I'll try to find out and try to get some more communication with that.
And we did receive an email, and I know that your engineer answered it, but just for those people in TV land, the red socks for the catch basins, they're asking when those are going to be removed because the paving was done, and I did see that was going to be removed sometime in July.
Because of the potential weather that was forecasted today, which never happened, I had them removed
Thank God.
today. So it's all out.
Okay,
They did it this afternoon.
thank you. Okay, that's all I had
Sure.
for that area.
I mean, that kind of wraps up Bungie. Does anybody have any questions on that project? I mean, I think it's going well. We're within budget. We're on schedule, hopefully ahead of schedule. And we're dealing with some complaints, but I think all in all, people are adapting as best they can.
Any questions on that one? Okay, thank you.
All right, I'll move on. So, the other thing that we're working on, Clinton Road, we got a LoCIP grant of $50,000 to fix Clinton Road. I don't think anybody needs to know that Clinton Road needs some attention. I had a real hard time finding contractors that would actually be willing to do this. I finally got 2 quotes, and the last one I got was about a week and a half ago. So I'm going to be talking to the low bidder Monday, and we're going to try and put that together for the next 2 months or so. And we're going to basically do an overlay and try to just clean it up and give it a few more years of wear and tear, or wearable surface.
While we're on Clinton Road, I know we talked about going out for LOTSIP funding for that.
Lots of, yeah.
LOTSIP, sorry. To go out for LOTSIP funding for that, how much do you think that road would cost to do?
Construction or design?
Design, both.
Design is 300,000 to 400,000, and construction, because the state wants a roundabout there, and they want
Another roundabout.
multi-use trails. You're 8 to 9 million, I would think, by the time we're done. And just to give you an idea, Bungay is a $5.5 million job. So, we can try and push back on the roundabout, but there's an extensive amount of accident data at the intersection of Clinton and
313.
313. So, but the roundabout in a state road is never a simple thing. It's a long process. You have 5 different departments to go through. You're talking years of back and forth, traffic studies, traffic engineers, drainage. I'm a little concerned about the dam
I was just about to bring
and
that
whether or not they're going to require us to upgrade the culvert that goes under 313. I mean, that would be 400,000 alone, probably. So it could turn into it could spiral into this enormous project. But right now we just haven't had the funds to kind of move that forward yet. So when we do, we'll certainly kind of look and see if we can narrow that scope down. But for the meantime, this year, we're going to try to get it at least cleaned up so it's a little better. DPW's been doing a really good job of just filling the potholes. I know there's plenty of complaints, but they're doing the best that they can with what they have to just get it at least safe. The other big job that's on the books but won't be done this year, it should be done next year, there's still money in the account to do this, is Seymour Avenue. So Seymour Avenue was always part of our road project going back probably 5 years ago.
Yeah.
We left the money in there for that, but then they got, what is it, a $2 or $3 million grant to fix up everything else. So they're up there right now doing all this work, and we made a determination that we should probably wait until that work is done before we go in and rip up the road and do what's right.
Well, they were replacing their laterals too, so there's no reason for us to pave the roads if they were going to rip it up to do
Correct.
their laterals. So that's
So
why
they got
we
all the
waited.
laterals done,
Yeah.
but now they're doing all the siding, and they're doing the roofing, and they're doing renovations, and they have contractors and trailers and equipment and supplies. It's just a nightmare. So we said, let's wait until next year when they're supposed to be done. So the plan is next summer to get in there and do that right. And hopefully there's enough funds to do it. But we can scale back and still have a decent product if we had to. There's some drainage issues up there that we're going to try and fix while we're up there. So those are the main projects that are in the hopper right now. The next thing to talk about is the handout that I just gave you. The first page is what I call Figure 1. It's in the road report, which I think all of you have either seen or know about. This is basically the priority list that I put together once or twice a year of the things that I think we should start spending money on if we have the money. It isn't a priority list. Up top, the top 4 are the LOTSIP projects. Obviously, the top 2 are being done right now. Clinton and Pearl. We have preliminary approvals for LOTSIP on those, but again, there just hasn't been enough money in the budget to go forward with the design of those. The next ones, I have 31 or 32 roads that can use some serious work. And some of them are minor, and I call minor would be like a mill and repave, which is just grinding off the top 2 inches and putting down another 2 inches. And then some of them are reclaim and repave, which is grinding up the pavement, regrading the whole thing, putting in new drainage, curbs, so on and so forth. Over on the right side, you have 2 columns. The second from right is the cost of that specific road, and my estimate of what it's going to take to do what I think is necessary there. And then the column all the way on the right is a cumulative cost. So we just keep adding those up as we go. And if you look at the bottom, if we did all of these, we'd need at least $10 million. And this is a partial list. I mean, there's plenty of other things that we can be doing in this town. And I know that we're not going to get $10 million next year. But I think the point is that any money that might be available in the next year, 2 years, 10 years, could be used well for these roads. There's plenty of work that needs to be done. The next 2 pages, I just put in as information. It's our sidewalk inventory and conditions. You don't really have to get into all the details here, but we have what is it? 25 miles of sidewalks in town, and I've pointed out, and some of the highlighted ones are the ones that I think need to be attended to soon. And that's at least 5.5 miles of sidewalks that can be used, that can use some work. So that's not part of the numbers that I'm here. Well, some of the sidewalks are in here, depending on the road, and if it's a road that needs work and needs sidewalk work, it's part of that. But there's plenty of money that can be spent on sidewalk repair, sidewalk potential removal. There's not a ton of those, but there's a few. And then there's areas that we have gaps. So we just have areas of roads where the sidewalk ends, and then 200 feet up the road, it starts up again. And it'd be nice to connect those. So that's at the last page, are the sidewalk gaps. Essentially, if you are looking for any kind of budgetary numbers, the only way to kind of gain any kind of ground on the roads that need work is at least $1 million a year, which we were doing for a little while. They were doing $5 million bonds, and we were spending that in about 5 to 6 years. So, and we were making some headway. So if that's even possible, I don't know if it is. That's really how we can try to gain some ground on this. That being said, if it's $250,000, we can spend $250,000. We can spend $25 million too. So.
Brian, can you tell us how much it costs to do 1 mile of road?
It depends on what we're doing. So is this like a full reconstruction, or is it a
Full
mill and
reconstruct-
repave?
We can go full reconstruction or mill and repave.
So I would expect a mile of road. For full reconstruction, probably $1 million. For a mill and repave, you're probably half of that.
Thank you on that one.
Some roads may benefit for both of those, a little bit of reclaim here and a little bit of mill and repave there. So there's not a one size fits all, but some of the roads need.
Because then you gotta justify the time span of
Yeah.
how long you want it to last versus just patching it
That's the
over.
other thing.
Right.
And I put these in order based on their use. So like Skokerat Street, I have number 10. Now Skokerat's not bad. It looks ugly, but it actually functions relatively well. But the amount of traffic that's on there, it's degrading quickly.
Correct.
So I think it's about time we get in there and either do a mill and repave, which I think will be fine, or maybe some heavier work. That being said, there are roads that are in much worse condition that are lower on the list, but maybe there's 10 houses on it. And it's ugly, it's bumpy, it's uncomfortable, but it's not unsafe. So you got to kind of weigh those to determine which ones are the right ones.
Sometimes where sewer grates are sinking and things like that, where you have to go kind of redo. That's the heavier work, I'm assuming, right?
The heavier work is when you have to remove and replace the base of the road, the material
Like you
that's
do in Elmwood.
underneath the asphalt. That's the main, and that's usually done with reclaiming. It's not what we're doing up in on Botsford, just because we have to comply with DOT standards, which is obscene. But we can get away with it on some of these smaller roads. But drainage can be very expensive as well. If we have to put in catch basins and pipes and outlets and all that other stuff, that can get very expensive as well. And sidewalks get expensive as well, if we want to do them the right way, which is concrete. Any questions?
I did have a couple of questions. Looking through your road, I didn't see Haddad, but I do see it on the bottom.
Well, I didn't mention that.
We didn't go there yet, right?
So there's two parts of Haddad.
Yeah.
So there's the south portion of Haddad, which is from the intersection of Silvermine, and there's the northern portion, which is from there up to Woodbridge. The southern portion definitely needs to be done. It's deteriorated a little further. You can use it. And I thought I had it on there.
No, you have it, Haddad on a possible abandonment repurpose. But I think that's the one that heads towards Woodbridge.
Yeah, you're right. Haddad does need to be done, and it should be up on the other. That section should be up higher. The northern section, in my opinion, is a candidate to remove.
Candidate for what?
To remove, to take it out. Now, for Haddad, there's a couple little obstacles that we have to deal with. One is there is one house
Yep.
that's in Seymour on that road on the Woodbridge line. If we were
Right on
going
the
to
line.
remove it, and I don't know if that's even a candidate, I don't know if it's something that the town wants to consider, we have to deal with that and the fact that Woodbridge is going to have to deal with that house during emergencies, or Seymour's going to have to go through Woodbridge to get there. I've been told in informal discussions that that can be handled. The other issue is you got to put in some sort of cul-de-sac there so that people can turn around. But the road is just a cut through. It's in horrible shape. There's only one house on it. I think it could be a great nature trail, or we can pass it over to Regional Water Authority, which owns all of the property around it. Maybe put in a parking area down on Silvermine, and people can use it as a nature trail, or just let it go back to nature and take out the pavement. But I think that is one of the ones that at least should be considered to remove, because I don't think it functions the way we need it to. And the other one is Cemetery Road. Cemetery Road, both of these roads are in horrible condition, and will cost almost $1 million each to do anything with. And again, nobody lives on these roads for the most part. The Cemetery Road is a cut through to get from Mountain Road down to Holbrook. My opinion is we could remove that. The state owns most of the property on both sides. We could put a cul-de-sac or some sort of turnaround up by Mountain Road. We could turn the lower portion of it down by Holbrook into a driveway for the cemetery that they would own. And then we don't have a road that we have to maintain anymore.
But we have a couple of houses on
Up,
this.
up towards a mountain. So
Mountain, right, yeah.
I wouldn't get rid of that section.
Okay.
I would say after that, down where there was a light for Oxford Airport up there,
Yep.
right around there, I would suggest we put in a cul-de-sac so that people can turn around, emergency vehicles and so forth. And then after that, it's either a driveway for the state to get to their state forests, or you just remove it, turn it into a nature trail again, or just remove it and let it grow in and let it go back to nature. But
They
again,
used to
I don't.
They used to
You
put
still
blocks
have to
there, so we didn't
spend
fall, right?
What's that?
100 to maybe 200,000 to abandon these.
How much?
So, but to keep them and actually make them safe again, you're talking $8 to $9 to $1 million. So you got to weigh that, and then I'm sure people are going to be. Some people are not going to like the fact that we're removing that road.
Another road I didn't see on here was Prospect. It's a dead end.
Where's Prospect? It's off of College.
It's off of Pearl.
Pearl. Bellevue Terrace area.
I can look it up.
No, excuse me, not Velvet Terrace.
What is it?
I think it's Prospect Ave.
It is
I
Prospect.
believe it's Ave.
There's another street up there too.
Ave Street.
See?
I believe it's Ave, and it is Prospect Avenue.
Yeah, we paved,
Yeah,
we
'cause we
paved
have,
street in 2000, I think it was 2015.
because we have a Prospect Avenue and a Prospect.
Yep, it's Prospect
Street.
Ave.
I mean, it's
Yes.
475 feet. It's one of those smaller roads that probably can use some work. It says that we have, plants through cracks, curbing in mediocre condition. I'll add it to the list. We'll take another look at it.
Thank you.
Probably one of the more minor roads, just because it's such a short road.
Thank you.
Brian, one other one I don't see on here, and it's only because we've been discussing Birch Road. No. Yeah, Birch.
Birch Street's a paper road.
But it's a paved road that goes down to Day Street.
That intersection there is horrible.
Oh,
You know where
That's
Cherry
after
and it
Cherry.
goes down,
yeah,
right
it's a
down to
Cherry.
Day Street.
Horrible.
Horrible
Yeah.
road.
Yeah, I don't see that
I
one
don't
on
see
here.
that on here. And I don't know if that's even, I mean, out of all these roads, I think that one could go. I don't know how much it's used.
So the only problem with that is I don't think I can get a turnaround in that from Cherry. And I think if we're gonna abandon a road, you have to be able to
Turn
at least be
around
able to
for
turn
fire.
around.
Yeah.
I mean, I could certainly look at it.
Take
I
it
know
right down
last year there was a lot of problems, and Frank went up there and filled all the potholes. You know, how long that'll last, who knows. But it could definitely use some work. Just add it to the
That's a
list.
tough one, yeah.
The section of Day Street right there is just terrible. Just
Day Street could use some work, sure.
That one section by Birch, right below Birch.
I think
So
all the
much-
water comes flying off the
Yeah.
hill,
Mhm.
and that's one of the problems, so.
Something needs to be done.
And then there Oh, Old Drive. Now that, I don't know if you've been up 67, I know we haven't gotten 67 yet. You go to 67, you go to Old Drive, and then you have the new Old Drive. When they did Rimmon Road, they fixed that area. And we have the new area, but now we have I don't know, maybe 100 feet of Old Drive that is
Didn't seem like it was a terrible shape, is it?
eh.
I'll look at it.
I even looked at the sidewalk, like if people had to walk over there and the sidewalk is, I mean, I know that's where the flood also
Yeah.
affected, where it looks like it falls off. And I would hope no one really walks over there because those guardrails don't look too safe either. But, not the guardrails, but the wooden embracements over there. But if you could look at that one.
Sure. Hopefully that project, I didn't bring that up because I'm just the liaison, it's not my,
It
my
looked
project.
like it's almost done.
They're almost done, they should be done in the next 30 days or so.
Brian, just because you put all these sidewalks on here,
Sure.
what are we doing with the Main Street sidewalk plan? You know, the one.
The Urban Act grant?
And all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, we're ready to go, and the contracts are ready to go, and then I talked to finance, and they haven't gotten a check from the state. So I'm not releasing the contractor yet until the money comes in.
Yeah.
So hopefully that'll get figured out, and then Earthworks has said that it's only about 4 to 6 weeks of work.
Oh, so it'll get done.
It should get done this year, assuming we don't have a finance problem, but. that
The
should-
state doesn't have a finance problem. Because if we don't have their check, then we can't do the work.
Right. I don't want the contract to be held up and,
Right.
them pull off the job because they haven't got paid.
True story. Humphrey Street. I know it's on the list.
So we did a little work on Humphrey Street a few years back. It could definitely use some work. It's on there, right? Yeah, it is on there.
Yeah.
It's a very
on page
narrow
one.
road.
Yeah.
It's overgrown.
I have
There's a
it.
lot of potholes. Luckily, it's one way. It's on the list. Love to do it, but
We see a lot of these roads that need to get done. I would like to ask this board that maybe the next meeting we consider going out for a 5 million road bond. We go out for bonding for $5 million. Separate question from the school. Yes, that is a separate question. We can ask about it in November. You know, we can put it on the ballot on that one, and not on the school one. The school one's not in November. The school's a separate one. I mean, like you said, this is something we used to do every 5 years, and then it would get us through to 4 years, and it just gets us back on the purpose. We are working on a 20-year of really roads not being improved, and for the past 3 years, we haven't done it. It's on our strategic plan to also put money into the budget to get this stuff done, but as the budgets get cut, the higher numbers get cut as well.
Yeah, any money that can be allocated for roads can be spent, for sure, and go to good use.
That's something for the board to think about over the next coming weeks.
Sure.
Any other questions for Brian? Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Doing a great job.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Item number 11, discussion and possible action regarding the potential fuel cell project for the town of Seymour. Aaron?
Good evening, Aaron Alibrio with Johnson Controls. I was before you guys remotely back on May 6th. So this is a follow-up on the fuel cell project and some scoping design work at the WPCA. If it's okay, I would like you just to interrupt and ask questions along the way. There isn't too many slides, but there's a lot of details. I want to be sure that I'm covering what I know and conveying it to you so that you fully understand what the parameters of the project are, what some constraints that are new and evolving, and why we're looking to try to get this project kicked off the ground sooner than later. So open for discussions along the way, okay?
Uh-huh.
So the agenda is program changes, fuel cell benefits, financial analysis, project timeline, additional scope, and questions. We're not waiting till the end again.
Okay.
So it's a $7.2 million project. There's two bill changes. The top is a federal bill. The green one is a local state bill. So the big, beautiful bill that passed and was signed on July 4th, Independence Day, has a bunch of nuances, and it's really difficult to navigate because there's some language that we won't know until for 45 days. Essentially, what has happened from when it went from the House to the Senate did a better job than the House. The House just basically ripped the ITC right out within 60 days, terminating after 2025. But so what the impact of the big beautiful bill is that the sooner we get going with construction, we are making sure that we have not a potential loss of $1.9 million, which is the IRA investment tax direct pay, since the language in the IRA allowed municipalities that don't pay taxes to be able to utilize renewable programs to then get the benefit of a direct pay. Now that payment doesn't come until the project is turned on, and it takes about 18 to 24 months from the turning it on, getting your paperwork in, and then sending you a check. But they are real. We've had checks come in some Long Island projects, and the municipality and school districts are very happy when they get a couple $1 million check that came from the project. So the green bill. So this is Senate Bill 4. What this essentially did was declassify fuel cells in Connecticut that are no longer considered Class 1 renewable. That act stripped them out of what is called the non-residential solar program. where before they qualified under low emissions. So there was several categories. Low emissions was a carve out from the utility administers the program, and that was basically for low emission type projects. Zero emissions is for the solar and low emissions. So they basically will kick it out October 1st. We have one opportunity to be prepared for a bid that opens August 4th and closes September 15th. If that submission that we're talking about here tonight does not pass, the performance-based contract is very flexible in being able to change the technologies associated with it and still create the same benefits. We'll get into that. I know that's going to be a little bit, but if you hold any questions on that, I think you'll see where we're sort of. So fuel cell benefits, specific here to the project that we've been looking at. We have deployed a team out there to start gathering preliminary due diligence so that we can make some early recommendations here, but we still have a lot of design and engineering work that needs to get done for that, that eminent bid opportunity. There is no bid associated from financial. It's just getting into the program where we can take the large amount of power that these high-density fuel cells produce and be able to send them to other town buildings or school buildings for those benefits. Okay, so benefits of fuel cell: power density, size of a landfill or a rubbish container, so 8 to 10 by 25 is an energy server. They run 365 24/7. This project is budget neutral over 12.5 years. There is an additional 6.5 or $4 million over the term. The term is a 20-year performance-based contract following state statute.
Go ahead.
The project with the product qualifies for Made in America, so that ITC direct payment of $1.9 million is a 40% value. And then the guaranteed uptime and efficiencies. There's a bolt-on operation and maintenance contract by the manufacturer Bloom that guarantees the numbers that you had seen in the table that I'll go over again, which is what drives that project ROI and benefits back to Seymour. It also reduces the fluctuations in electric power that you have always experienced, and this will happen over the next 20 years of the agreement. It is greener power than traditional lines, so you are actually reducing carbon right out of the gate. The fuel cell locations, community center, which will deliver natural gas line to the community center at no cost to the town. That gas line can be utilized at the facility. The heat byproduct of the fuel cell being located can have future design uses. There had been some discussions about a potential future pool, also utilizing that heat in the HVA systems at the community center. Bungie, did I say that right? I learned that thing. Bungie School, larger use of power, increased ability to also utilize the HVAC and heat capture on the product. I highlighted again so that I didn't miss it. Our performance-based contract does allow for changes in technologies. When we did our first project with you folks back in 2018, we had uncovered some roof that needed to be repaired. We had a $9.5 million project that we went out for funding for. We needed to do the roofs. The value of the project was $14.5 million. You didn't have to come out with a pocket of any more dollars. So you didn't borrow any more. Okay, so we were utilizing programs that are out there and make sure that we were maximizing the benefit. That renewable revenue driver was primarily solar deployment. And then we had efficiencies through all of the buildings, trying to drive down the cost per square foot.
Before you go on.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
The size of the container again?
So a 20-yard dumpster container, a metal.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, okay.
So they're a little bit taller. They're about 8 feet, but they're essentially saying 10 feet wide, 8 feet, actually 10 feet by 20.
Okay, and how many?
2.
2. And where's the location for this?
Community center and Bungie. Now
You
we
know
have
where-
alternative. You have
Yeah.
alternative locations. The police department is a good one. The library, you have space, you have infrastructure, but we're trying to find the biggest value. The community center with a free gas line. I don't remember what the cost was, but I know that somebody had said that they reached out to Eversource to get the gas on,
Yeah.
and it was pretty expensive. The reason it's going to be zero is because it's going to run and there's gonna be a different, amount of draw than it would be if it was just a
So the
building.
plan is for 2 at the community center,
One at the community center and
and
one
one,
at
okay,
Bowman.
one, total
Yep.
of 2, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. The size of these, I didn't say it, it's 650 kW.
Okay,
So it's 325 kW for one energy server.
Can you, the 6.4 million in additional benefits over the term.
So if you took the amount of savings and revenue that it produces and you applied it 100% to pay down your debt, it has a 12.5-year payback. You can borrow that over a longer period of time, or you can borrow more money. Two options. In a neighboring city, we did a $3 million project. They had a police department that needed $1 million more to finish the project. We borrowed against that solar deployment to offset that. Why would you do that? Well, the alternative is you come out of capital reserves. Our project is budget neutral because basically we're displacing your utility cost in the buildings that we serve. And so that way it's budget neutral. So it's in the budget that you appropriate every year.
So we can take that $6.4 million upfront and use it for anything.
Yes. My advisement would be that it's on driving energy efficiency or things that you need in building stock.
Hold on. Kurt, could we use it to offset the electrical, the solar panels for the Bungay School? Could we use it to offset any cost for Bungay School?
In theory, you could use it to pay back the initial note, Bank of America, to reduce that charge. You could use it to potentially pay any penalty we may have with the state, or we could use it just as a straight payment toward reducing the cost of the new Bungay School. So if, again, just keep it that simple, $100 million project, we get 80%, there's 20 million left, that the town would have to pay. Should I do all that again? Yeah, essentially, yes. You can use the money for any of those needs that come along with the school, whether it be paying off the Bank of America note. You could use it to pay down principal costs of the school. So the money that's left over after state reimbursement, which we figure is going to be roughly 20 million, let's just say, you can put that 6.4 million towards that, bringing that number down to 13.5 million. And again, that money's, it's budget neutral. So when we had talked about the potential cost of the new school being, I believe it was 0.68 mils would be the initial hit, you'd be taking roughly a third of that off. So you might be taking 0.25 mils off of that. So, while the project itself has, value, green initiative value, there's a lot of other ancillary benefits that we would get from that. That being a big one, where you can turn around and say to residents, you're going to get a direct cost avoidance tax savings of $250,000, give or take, if you chose to use it for that.
And not to go off this, hold on, not to go off
You could do
this.
$6.4 million worth of roads too. You saw how quickly Brian can spend that money too.
Yeah.
So it's all in how you want to slice the pie. Borrowing costs, the more you use in cash, the less borrowing costs that you have. So it reduces your bond counsel fees, it reduces your underwriter fees, and of course it reduces your insurance carrying cost over that time period.
Okay. Thank you.
and just now, the 12.5 years, how long do these last for?
Great question. We kind of covered this before,
Okay.
but I can add more, and plus I'm here,
Sure.
so it's kind of
Yeah,
easier
it
to
was-
see
it
you
was
and
tough on
talk to you.
that Zoom,
I know.
yeah.
So this has a couple of things that you'll see in another slide, but it's an O&M contract, which is upkeep and maintenance of the fuel cells. So the fuel cells, they have to be worked on every, say, 4 to 8 years, right? And so the way that the program works is that you're signing up for that program. It's ongoing maintenance. Should any of the servers, and there's 5 servers in there are 5 boxes in one server, and then there's an empty box. And so if any one of those goes below 52% efficiency, they dispatch, and there's 4 guys that work Bloomington, Connecticut, and this is all that they do. There's 80 installations that they handle. They come out and they'll put a new core in the empty box, disconnect the other one, work on it, and then just keep it going. So your uptime in terms of the amount of generation that is there is based upon those two elements. Okay? And so I hope I answered that, but basically you're paying for ongoing maintenance that's going to make them to continue to run for the term, the 20 years. And so essentially some of them may be fully loaded after year 20 and keep going and you do what you want. Similar to solar, that, you know, it depreciates a little bit.
Isn't that isn't 20 years though the general rule of how long they last?
So
They don't really go over by much.
they're going to have ongoing maintenance. So the life of a fuel cell, this technology, is anywhere between 5 and 8 years. And so if you imagine you have two with 5 boxes that are operating, producing electricity, the maintenance contract flows right through the whole term, and so that their dispatch, when the efficiencies, which is part of the amount of guaranteed savings that you're getting, that's for the ROI on the project, they'll just constantly just maintain them.
And then in 20 years, you'd want to replace it anyways in this perspective, the technology is going to be a lot better in 20 years. So they'll have better efficiencies.
Yeah.
So that's really the whole gig. But being neutral for the 12 and then getting payout on the remainder is really the benefit at this point.
Did I answer your question? Okay, so this was the ISO that we went over before that I kind of want to just get a chance to go through. So, it doesn't show, oh, it does. Okay, this column here, first column is the years, right? I talked about the 20-year term. The fuel cell KWH produced is right in this column here. So you got over 5.4 million KWH of being produced. Fuel cell natural gas usage is in this column here. Okay? So that's what helps these produce electricity, right? They take a fuel source, natural gas, they take air, then chemical electrical activity happens and it produces electricity. We talked about the heat byproduct. It's not being captured in this. So there is, you know, future potential usage to capitalize a little bit more cost and more benefit that we could look at in the future. We're just not capturing it now. So, wow. Wrong button. So power generation, then we have to take the KWH and put it into the amount of payment that you're offsetting. And so we basically got $854,000. Now we have to pay for the O&M and we have to pay for the gas. Those are the red columns. But I won't skip over the $1.9 million in rebates and grants incentives. That's your ITC. As I mentioned, once the system is turned on, it's an 18 to 24 months before you receive the direct pay. So we're representing it in year 8. Might come in a lot faster. Might come in year 2 or 1. But let's be safe. So the operation and maintenance cost is right here, and you can see it's fairly consistent and goes all the way through the term. The cost for the gas, the input, is here. Available funds to pay debt service is in this column here. Now we get to the blue, which is basically your funding and financing. The starting principal, 7.25, and then we flow down the payments, and this is where it becomes cash positive. The one-time payment reduces your total debt service payments, total 9.5 million, ending principal, and then the final column, $6.8 million of benefit, which starts again in year 12 and a half. It's actually like 12.23, but 12 and a half is what I used to round up. So that's how the ROI is presented, calculated, and that's how the project functions. Any questions?
I'm a dinosaur about these matters. Could you explain the technology again? You briefly did. Could you explain it a little bit more to me?
Yeah, I'll get into it. I'm not the engineer, so I know enough to be dangerous, and I'm sure there's a
Thank
lot other people that will explain a little bit better. Basically, gas comes into the unit, air comes into the unit. They're separating the molecules. They're combining and creating an event that then produces electricity, which is then sent through the actual entire unit that we build. And so that power then goes right through and goes into the building and onto the transmission lines.
So the power stays within our district. It's not in
So
the grid.
in electricity world, it's two-way. It doesn't stay anywhere. It continues to go on the lines. It travels all over the place. It stays in UI's district, but in the program, you're able to say, if I'm producing 100 units, I want 10% to go to the town hall, I want 10% to go to the police department, 10% to go to the ambulance, until you get exhaust 100% of the amount of production that you have. But it goes onto the line. The electricity company needs, they have closures and everything else. They monitor all the draw constantly, but yours is credited through a revenue grade meter at the unit, at the energy server. So that's where it's tracked. Then that amount is sent as on-bill credit.
And from a maintenance perspective, who is monitoring whether the system is functioning well or not?
So there's I'll take a field trip to Delaware. You can see one of the Bloom's ROC, remote operational centers, where they're tracking all of their projects. And so you're down there, it's very impressive. The guys are there in the room. You know, it looks like a NASA station with all their screens, everything that comes up, and then they just call their field technicians, like I said, that are close by, and they just take care of it. So.
Would it be noticed same day, or is it caught
Oh
possibly
yeah,
as time?
it's monitored
Real time.
24/7. The ROC is 24/7. Dispatch happens right away, and so understanding what's behind this, because we don't want to misrepresent what happens. The production level is at a perfect scenario, and then it's drawn back to 92%. Okay, so that allows time for dispatch and things to be taken care of. I drew it back another. So you essentially take off the amount of production that cell fires when it's commissioned, draw that back by 8%, and then draw that back by 5%. That gives us Reliance to be able to demonstrate that the project's going to be successful, and for you to be successful. We do the same thing with solar. We call it a guaranteed savings factor. We do the same thing with solar. That's why you would typically see that the solar and the fuel cells are producing more than what we thought they were going to. And so, and then that again, that bolt-on operations and maintenance that's factored into there, that keeps you at 52% efficiency. They dispatch at 54%.
Thank you.
Did I answer that? The electric world is,
Thank you.
What's nice about these cells is if they're methane, they can be methane right now, that's what everybody's using, but years from now, when we start to see, hydrogen starts to be used and everything, they can be transferred to hydrogen as well, if I'm not mistaken, right?
yeah, absolutely. They can take either hydrogen or natural gas.
So you're kind of neutral there too. As, 20 years from now, if we choose to go to hydrogen, we'll be able to do that.
They're future-proof, in the terms of if hydrogen came down, in a couple of years, you could just switch to hydrogen, right? There's a little probably issue with a 10-year or 5-year deal that the gas company wants to make sure that you're pulling gas from.
Right.
But that is a nuance that's built into it. The infrastructure that's being invested outside of the containers, is basically the typical electrical 50-year life. So you'd have the opportunity to upgrade based on those locations.
And you will, and I think you will have a long-term contract with Everstore under this
For the
program.
gas purchase, yeah.
Yeah, for the gas purchase, right?
Yeah, we do that essentially to make it more viable. So project timeline. Presented to the board on the 6th, sent the contract to Seymour on July 1st. We're doing the board of select persons meeting tonight for review and approval. Scope and cost. There's a step between approving the contract and executing the contract. Our project cost gets packaged off and sent to a third party, which follows RS Means, where they do pricing analysis on the fuel cell project. And once they receive that, they issue a letter to the town saying, we've reviewed Johnson Controls project, it meets the RS means standards, and then we were looking to get a contract executed by July 23rd. The finalized design and engineering, all that work that I said we gotta get ready, that bid opens August 4th, it closes September 15th. So we're gonna finish the due diligence, finish the design criteria that's required for the program, and then make that application on August 27th to the low emission for the fuel cell. This project timeline now starts talking about another opportunity, which is either a transition pivot or a bolt-on. That would be an application for the solar under the same program, NRES, not competing with your fuel cell, but has the same timeline. It closes September 15th. The contract is basically like a design-build contract, and we've also put a timeline on there, October 9th or November 9th, to amend the contract should anything need to be done, and then move into what's considered on the design-build the notice to proceed construction, which is November 10th.
Do you need any state approval, like siting council or anything for these?
Yeah, there are permitting applications that happen. That's when we start the application. Those permitting, they'll happen right after the execution of the contract.
Okay.
In fact, I think there was some request to get the paperwork done for the interconnections at those two sites that we're talking about right now, and so that's just a paper process. But trust me, my resources are asking me for the contract timeline, right? So yes, there are, and siting council, local permitting, solar now has a new thing with local permitting, has to be done ahead of time, and so there is some work product that definitely has to get done. So parallel path, this would be a recommendation to potentially take a look at doing the application for solar on the Chatfield Lepresti site. What you're seeing here depicted in the picture is 3.9 megawatts, so almost 4 megawatts. We're recommending potentially 3 megawatts. That can be adjusted. But what you're seeing in the picture is 4 megawatts. What you're seeing after this is 3 megawatts, ground array. It's not considered dense forest by the state, so you wouldn't have any permitting problems. It's a ground mount install on that 7 acres of land that you have there. There's a buffer you can see from the residency. I'm not going to tell you exactly how far that buffer is, but let's say that you probably wouldn't be able to see it considering the distance, but I think with a 3 megawatt it would be close to 80 to 100 feet.
Even in the wintertime with the trees barren?
So because they're as dense as they are, as long as we're not getting a lot of shading, we can leave a decent amount. Also, a fence with the perforated could also be put up. These don't stand terribly high, but those considerations should be taken. It also of note, it does slope down. It is southward facing, but it does slope down to the healthcare community center that's depicted on the bottom.
Yeah, sure.
And so the residents at the top, that's going to drop pretty quick for them from a visibility standpoint. The NRES program is either buy all or netting. So I say that because if you're doing a parallel path, you do a buy all, and you're just taking all of the money as a form of payment, and you're utilizing maybe the fuel cells to offset electrical bills, and so that you can really capture an additional benefit by doing both of those together. So the solar bill changes, why would I be presenting these on top of each other? Not for confusion, okay? In the bill, the ITC for solar is in jeopardy, and it's moving pretty quickly. And so if we agree, this is the guidance that we're getting right now. A solar facility will need to either start construction within 12 months of the law being enacted, which it's enacted, or be placed in service prior to 2028. So it has to be built by, if you will, by 2028. There's some language with regards to expediting some of this stuff in an executive order that was signed last night. Guidance is forthcoming, but they want to shorten that 12 months, essentially. And so utilizing the programs that you're afforded for solar behooves you to try to move as quickly as possible. The other thing that happens that will trigger for sure in 2026 is all solar projects, renewable projects, will have a fiat component, foreign entity thing. Basically going to be a tax. So its prices are going to go up. All the solars that's being predominantly produced in Asia is going to go to 50% more cost. And it's going to make it a little bit difficult. Again, the Treasury guidance isn't out, but if you move quickly, you get to avoid all of those potential issues. I left on there battery storage because while there's good preservation and good strength in that program, they are bolt-ons to solar deployments and or fuel cell deployments, and the programs work best in that fashion, as opposed to just purely doing a battery pipe. Okay, this is another eyesore, and I apologize that it wasn't in the same format, but when the guidance changed some stuff on the solar, I just felt obligated to try to present it to you. So the project summary is in the first box here. Project summary is all right here. The solar for 3 megawatts is 16.8 million. I'm including state rebates because you qualify for 64% reimbursement because it's being located on a school site. That's roughly 10.8 million. So it's a net of $6 million. I've got 10 months of construction here, so we're capitalizing or carrying, no out-of-pocket, the interest associated with the borrowing, and the borrowing would come after a contract. We wouldn't recommend anything happens up front. And so the ITC value is 3.6 million. So that would be the reason you would want to get into it. The other reason is locally, and it's not on here, the NRES program has a school solar carve-out. It's a tranche of 20 megawatts. You finish your application, you check all the box, you submit the application, you're then awarded the 20-year tariff. It pays 18.86 cents per kWh that produced on a 20-year term. It's more than what you're paying for electricity now. It's really a good project, good program. The program is not going to terminate, but the program benefits are going to become less with all of the ITC implications that are happening. The 20 megawatts right now, they haven't let one project out. So it's 100% still available. It won't be that way in the future. And part of that reason is because many of these communities aren't aware of it, and they're not able to, act fast. They're getting into Q4. They closed out their school budgets. The town's closing out, and nobody's looking at it. You'll have a lot more competition is the reason why I'm telling you that. You have a lot more competition. I don't know how much will be there. Eversource has 20 megawatts right now. In this pro forma, it's the same as what you saw, the years, the amount of electrical savings associated in this column here. So basically generating almost $680,000 in year 1. ITC flows in year 3. You have your net savings to be able to pay debt service. You have M&V measurement verification on the solar, which is making sure that it's producing. It's the guarantee. If it doesn't produce the amount we tell you, we cut you a check. And then you have total debt service going cash positive in year 7. So this carries an annual cumulative cash flow on a 20-year term of $8.6 million. So very similar in terms of structure, a higher cost for about the same close dollar amount, but not the same amount of production of electricity. The difference and the reason why they're so close is that additional step of securing that state aid. through school construction.
The fuel cell by itself provides enough power for the entire municipal side and the entire Board of Education, correct?
Yes.
What about the solar? Would do the same thing?
This program essentially is cutting your payment checks. Right,
So-
credit, additional credit.
Right.
Working out. So, you're looking at $6.7 million, $670 million of electrical cost being created. If it comes on as credit.
Could you, in theory, take the fuel cell, take the 6.4 million, pay for this in cash, and start receiving a revenue stream of, I don't know, 669,000 in year one?
Yeah, and so the programs that we're talking about, just so you know.
You piggyback one on top of the other.
Yeah, you could. And the program
But
is.
not, but then there's no insurance, there's no electricity cost at all for the Board of Ed.
That's correct.
So the Board of Ed right now budgets 675,000.
Yeah.
So the 675,000 would go away, and we would still get potentially another 675,000 in cash each year.
Yeah, essentially, yes.
And do these never take into account the rising electrical cost?
So, this program is a fixed payment
Right.
for 20 years.
Contracted out.
So that, you're gonna execute a tariff agreement when you get it accepted in the program, there's no escalation.
So we know what our electric bill is going to be year over year over year over year for the next 20 years.
You're essentially gonna displace your electric charge year over year over year.
Okay.
Because you're gonna get that 18.86 per kWh produced credited on the account. Or
So-
you could sell it to your neighbor.
No, but I like
That's
where
a
Kurt's
sample.
head was going.
Yeah.
Using the fuel cell.
Slightly more creative than me.
Well, we can dump the revenue right back into the debt on the fuel cell
Yeah.
and pay that off much faster, and now you're over $1 million a year in positive cash flow. And again,
Yeah.
still, you don't have, now, the Board of Ed has no cost for electricity. And the town now, once that debt service is paid off, the town has no cost for electricity.
Right.
And it's just pure revenue stream until the 20 years are up.
Yeah.
So I think there's only 2 more slides.
I didn't even think about doing that to that.
The WPA, just review,
Oh, yeah.
2 anaerobic digesters evaluation, plant efficiency,
Forgot about that.
co-digested food waste and dewatering improvements. So one of the things I can tell you is, because we slightly got into the doors to look at it, but we know that there's an employee that is full-time taking care of a service that's supposed to be mechanically done over at the plant, and most of the equipment's vintage 1970.
Cool.
And so, while we're looking forward to this part, we're going to be doing analysis. We're going to come back to you to present like our findings as part of our scope of work in the contract.
What's nice about that one is if you could
Yeah.
use your if you can, you're getting pure methane from your digester directly, and now you're not even, you're just offsetting what you need from Eversource with what you can't produce out of that digester. So then you can utilize the power at the WPCA.
It just opens a whole world of the way things can be done and cutting our costs from electricity to our waste being shipped off-site. The tonnage that is going out.
Yeah, that analysis of the shipping cost, especially the dewatering,
Yeah.
the weight and everything else, yeah,
Right.
for sure.
The composting.
It's just that we have old digester equipment, so that's the main
Yeah.
issue.
I think sensitive to what's the service to the constituents is, going to be looked at that as well. So that's why we're doing that study.
Teresa,
Yeah.
you had said you had a couple questions.
Yeah, back on the solar array at Chatfield School, what is the amount of area that's covering?
It's a great question. So there's 7 acres. It's usually about 2 acres per megawatt.
Okay.
So that's about 6 acres, probably 5.5, depending on where that is optimally done.
So is that, you know the area well too, is that like wetlands, like nature area?
I think there's some wetlands in there.
Yeah.
Down towards the bottom. down towards this bottom here, I believe there is some wetlands.
Yeah, you're not
And
near
that-
the wetlands.
And
The
then there
wetlands
was
are
a
lower.
little bit, like over here by the southern part of the, facing this, north-south, southern part of, the healthcare
So is that
facility.
area just forested entirely?
It would be, for where the panels are, yes. But that buffer, there's a tree buffer intention.
From what I understand, when we were looking at this way back when, is that when that was put in, it was supposed to be like some sort of a walking trail, and it
There
was,
years ago, yeah.
yeah, and it's never been maintained, or it's never been you know what I mean? It's no longer used as a walking trail. It was never used as a walking trail. It was put in with great, with a great idea in it for a purpose. But if,
But why do we select that site over other school areas that have more land around them? Chatfield doesn't have a lot of land at all around them.
I could answer that.
okay,
In 2018, when we did the first energy performance contract, we were trying to help offset Chatfield Lopresti's energy load. And we had discovered that there was land there. And then Roy said he needed to check something. He was checking something about how the town acquired the land. So we had looked at this programmatically. We were limited to 2 megawatts. And we never moved forward with it at that point. So if there's other parcels of land, we could evaluate them. This is a decent opportunity because we knew the size of the land and the orientation.
I get concerned that we're locking ourselves in for 20 years when we don't know what's going to come and what we'll need 15, 18 years from now at the school level.
In terms of,
More space, I mean, we hit a problem with Bungie, right? Like, we did the solar project there,
Yep.
and now we're, the best route that we're going is to take the school down and build a new one. So I do get concerned locking in something like this for such a long period of time, and also not understanding we do have old infrastructure and what happened with Bungie, right? What does this mean if there's another project we do for our other older buildings, and how it will affect how we're spending money? I'm not opposed to spending money for this kind of savings, don't get me wrong. But we have to be able to also move the town forward and fix our buildings and maintain our infrastructure without worry that it's going to really interfere with the improvements we're trying to make.
I would like to add to that thought process, just because you're talking about, if you wanted to do something with the building, remember that this program allows us to produce the power at that solar array. It doesn't go to that building. So if you just took down that building, it's still going to connect to the lines, and you're still able to send it to any other building that you want. It's a little bit different than the Bungie School with the solar array being consumed right there. The program didn't allow you to do virtual net metering before. So you have some more flexibility with the program and this proposal, with something like this.
This is right to the lines, it's not direct to the building.
Yep.
right.
And my concern was, I see all those houses all around there. Is there a public hearing on this or anything for the neighbors to have any input if they want this technically in their backyard?
So this can be scaled down to give more buffer room, okay? Again, the picture says 3.9, I moved it down to 3. You could move it down a little bit more too. But anything over a megawatt requires siting council approval. And all the abutters would be notified, and they would be getting an opportunity to say something.
And I think
it
it's
won't-
a short timeline that it looks like that you have to work with this right now. But is there can we look at any other areas possibly for an alternative?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'd appreciate it to do that.
No, I understand what you're saying.
And the other thing I wanted to add that I just came back to is if we just look at the financials, and this is the spirit of the first project that we did. This project has the $8.6 million of annual cash flow. That means that it could actually support, without interest, $8.6 million. With interest, maybe $6 million, maybe $4 million of other work that doesn't have any savings. If it has savings, then it just increases the amount that you could able to borrow against budget neutral. So when we talk about being able to improve our buildings, this, just like the fuel cell, gives you an opportunity where other municipalities have used it to finish a project that was, there. You got a new school that you brought up that you mentioned. We did a parallel project, not in Oxford, Connecticut, but Oxford, it might be Tennessee. I could send you the video. We took over the HVAC and the fire and security and took it out of their budget so they didn't have to value engineer their building. So there are good flexibilities that I pointed to, that our contracts do allow.
And I know I said I didn't have any more questions, but I do. Solar array, I take it, has no noise,
None.
none. Now, with the fuel cells,
Yep.
do they produce noise?
Very, very little.
Okay.
Very little. I'll take you to some operating fuel cells,
Okay.
and you'll stand right next to them, and you'll say, I pretty much know
Like a
it's
hum or
on. And if you put
something.
your
Maybe a
hand up, you
fan.
say, well,
That's about it.
maybe a
It's like
fan.
Perfect. That's,
Yeah.
It's like a new dishwasher.
okay.
You hear the,
Can't
Well,
enforce
well,
the noise or-
well, depends.
Well,
Depends on if you, what.
It
your
depends if you're
dishwashers-
living near, yeah, I mean, the hum might not be a big deal, but if you're living near it, listening to it the whole time, it might be a big deal.
It's not that big of a hum. You cannot only, you can hear the hum if you're standing next to it. You can't hear the hum if you're in your house.
Yeah, I mean, I've walked up to so many of these that, you don't hear it until you're almost right there.
Okay.
Not like those old transformers that you hear.
Well,
Yeah.
you know what I'm thinking?
Oh,
This
those
is
are
so
my
off
air
topic, but I
conditioners
bought
on.
an induction stove, and what drives me crazy
Yeah.
is when you put it on, you can hear it hum.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the hell? But, so, I had to bring that up.
but Aaron, just to clarify, I think Teresa's question, we can do fuel cells, we don't have to do solar. I mean, the solar could be a pivot or it could be a nice value add. So if there's things that you're uncomfortable with about neighbors and things, you don't necessarily have to do the solar per se.
So I think why I showed on the project timeline, there's two applications. It's being prepared to be able to pivot and already have bird in hand, right? Programmatically, bird in hand, we can quickly pivot. We need to narrow that site down. Okay? And we could pivot by saying, let's just commit to 1.5 megawatts, a much smaller array. So that would be, 2 megawatts is half the size of what you see. We could go just a little bit more. You still got, great project value. You could do both projects if you want. That's where that project amendment comes in. That's the timeline where you'll know, that November timeline, that you'll know that you've got both programs, or you have one, or you have none.
Are you talking about solar at Sheffield because the fuel source is not there?
No, I proposed it because of my history in 2018, knowing that the land was there and knowing that Chatfield and Presley uses 1.4 megawatts
Yeah.
of electricity. So it consumes a lot. And so while you don't need the program, you have the benefit of the program. This board could send that power, the board does the project, that board could send that power, to other places. They could consume most of it on site.
Did you explain what the SAM accounts are, just so the board knows?
I did, but I think I glossed over it. So
You did.
these projects
Last over.
for state, agricultural, and municipal SAM accounts have the virtual net metering ability. So for the schools carve out, it acts like a SAM. It's a school site or school land or contiguous to school. That's the definition of school site. And so that is probably one of the other reasons why I did Chatfield and Presley, because it's a school only carve out. You could bid it into the other program, but you have tons of competition. So the school SAM account, you can send that power to any one of your accounts. You also have the ability to send it to any other SAM account in the electric district of Eversource. That's where you guys are. So, I don't know, what's the neighboring town here?
Woodbridge.
Naugatuck, Woodbridge. They're Eversource accounts. You could send it to one of their buildings. And they pay you that 18.86 cents. Or they pay you 17 if you want to be nice, I guess.
And just with these solar fields, do you do landscaping like a buffer around?
Yeah, there'll be a perimeter fence with I forget the shading that what do they call somebody call it? The
Not
shading.
the
that they put-
arborvitae's, but,
No,
No,
they have all
tree-
the deer up there.
no, you wanna get green giants in there.
Yeah.
But is that something you do?
That could be incorporated in it. It's typically not plantings that are necessarily done. It's typically fencing and, you know, the mesh, but I mean, it can be brown, it can be dark in color.
You'd want the fence to keep the bears out.
Right, but that has some nice landscape around, so people don't see that.
Right, you could put the fence up and then you could put the nice green,
Right.
those trees that you mentioned around
Well,
that.
Yeah, the town could just pay to do, put trees up outside the fence at that point, to just make it,
$2 million to be able to do it, so,
make
you
it
know.
pretty.
Some rose bushes.
Well, we're gonna go out, get some
Profit.
extra plants and plant sellers out of the state's green program, so.
Spend 5.8 million on
Maybe they
trees.
get 15 to 20 million to do some plantings.
Trees are expensive.
And these, both
You can make it
projects-
look nice and
Oh,
not
yeah.
thrown together, in other words.
So, yeah, I think that answers why I was looking at the school and Chatfield, was just when I.
But it also, this has the potential to lower the impact of, you know, when the school is voted on, right? Lower the impact to the mill rate, to the residents, as well as stabilize the utility cost in our budgets for both the school and the town.
Yeah, so Eric, just, could you just talk through like what's needed from the board? Just so that way they fully understand kind of what's what. What's needed, what would be needed tonight? Or if we had to call a special meeting, let's say next week, what would, like what's what?
Well, I mean, ultimately, it's an aggressive timeline, and I understand that. It's, the contract, you know, is in hand. We need comments back on the contract. There's scope of work that needs to be agreed upon by you guys, the board, and then, you know, authorize, negotiate the contract. Finalize the Ts and Cs and negotiate the final scope of work.
One little correction, the contract is not in hand. We're waiting on the contract.
It did not get kicked back to me. I
I
will
did.
resend it to you.
Thank you. I don't have the contract. I love
Okay,
you,
so I was
but
about to look at you.
Huh?
I
I was about to look at you.
I sent it, and then you responded, is there an LOI or anything else with it? And I said, no. So I will resend it, and if it got in your spam or something,
I don't have the contract.
Uh-oh.
okay.
I think I was writing to you, that email referred to a contract. I don't have the contract,
Maybe I didn't put it on there.
Maybe you didn't attach it.
which is why I asked about
Okay.
it. An LOI.
So this board has a discussion and possible action regarding the potential fuel cell project for the town of Seymour. So we have to take action on this, or not take action on this. And it's up to this board's.
I mean, you could, and I would have Rich answer this question, but you could give tentative approval pending sign off of town council. So allow Anne Marie to sign a contract once Rich has reviewed it, if you're comfortable with the premise of what was presented tonight. I don't think not having the contract should be something that could stop it, because if there is an issue with the contract, Rich can just kill it on the spot, doesn't need to come back to the board for any type of approval. But assuming Rich would be comfortable with the contract and works all that out, that this board would not need to meet again if it's comfortable with the premise of moving forward with the fuel cell project.
Well, isn't there the option to do the fuel cell and not the solar?
Yes. Yes.
And that would need to be decided tonight, correct?
If you wanted to do the whole thing, I didn't, to be honest with you, I didn't think about that until just now.
The contract that I thought I sent only has the WPCA and the fuel cell.
Right.
We're gonna make an application so that we can pivot in November, or you can amend the contract once you know that that award is there. I would request that somebody give me locations so that, I'm not looking to make 3 applications,
Right.
but we could start maybe and just do 1.5 acres or 1.5 megawatts at Chatfield or Presti. That does not need to be decided, okay? So we're gonna make those. It's the fuel cell and the WPCA that's in that contract, and that is what I would say is a starting point for you. If you like the benefits that the solar program, you can signal that to me. I can come back with 3 locations on the board as soon as like 2 weeks. It won't take us that long to do the analysis to be prepared to bid into it. the bidding criteria does take a couple of action items. So as soon as I get sites, I can do that analysis. But I think before the board tonight.
And I went back and checked our email traffic. I think there's just a little misunderstanding in terms of what we have. We have a draft contract. You were going to have your team go back and plug in dates.
Yeah, so
on
in the,
this.
so in the contract that we did, we had preemptively done a timeline around May. Okay?
Yeah, it's,
And so there's a milestone in there that needs to be redone. I did signal to somebody on the team to redo that. I don't
Right.
have it in hand yet,
okay.
but I think that milestone is basically just steps associated like that project line. It's a little more detailed.
Okay.
Can we approve the fuel cell and then reconvene about the solar? Do it like that, or
Yeah, that's what I think he's
Yes, that's
saying,
what he
yes.
said.
is that what I just heard?
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
It's not in the contract. The contract has amendment language, and it's the same contract that you guys did in 2018.
Wouldn't it, yeah.
And so you basically have that form in there, and we amend the contract, we do the language, and we forecast all of the associated savings associated with it,
This contract is just for the fuel cell
and the WPCA scope.
and the WPC scope. That's what this contract is.
This is all too much for me in one night with the solar. I'm not in favor of the solar, approval of the solar at this point.
We're not approving the solar.
Yeah, so we're not
approving
gonna
the fuel
approve
cell.
solar.
I know, but I'm just saying, I thought we were going to talk about the solar too. I'm not in favor of the solar.
Right.
The solar is a separate contract that we're not, we still have to find different areas, that we want to look at
And the
different areas.
WPCA?
Huh?
WPCA?
Well,
Because that wasn't on down here either. It was just the fuel cell project.
The fuel cell is at the WPC.
that's one of the locations.
It's one of the
It's one
potential
locations.
locations. And so the fuel cell project is the
There's-
term that I've used, but the fuel cell project has WPCA scoping and is a potential site for a fuel cell.
Thank you.
And that one's gonna take a little bit more research, because they gotta figure out whether that'll work there or not. Where the other sites will be directly off Eversource, and they can,
Correct.
I know some people here are going to disagree with me, but before we start talking about putting solar panels on the school property, I know it's all town property, but there should be discussion with the Board of Education also, as a courtesy.
I understand that. We're not talking about the fuel
I'm
cells tonight.
just talking about, there was talk about approving solar tonight too. I understand you're saying we're not doing that tonight.
Right. No, we talked about the solar. He mentioned the solar. We're not, solar is not discussed tonight. Right now, it's the fuel cell that's on the crucial timeline to get approved. The solar, we can look down the road to look at additional or different sites to do that, so that potentially it's not on a school site. But I agree, the Board of Ed should be involved in this.
Yeah, it's not solar. I needed to show that because of the timing. It would behoove us to have conversations in addition to, as a completely separate project that can be amended into the performance contract.
You confused me. I thought you
I-
were wrapping
I
it
know.
all into one project.
I'm saying that we should get the application in so that we can pivot. That would be the prudent step, okay, is for us to decide that you like solar, you like what it has done for you in the past, you like potentially what I'm showing you, not that site, no decision tonight, but that I will, if somebody gives me some locations, I will do the due diligence and come back before the board to potentially amend the project, but we wouldn't have to amend it until November, once we know.
So what are you saying? You're looking for some type of approval with regard to solar to go
No.
forward?
Nope.
Fuel cell.
No.
Just the fuel cell.
Sorry. I only presented that as a future potential add-on for you guys to take a look at,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah.
Tonight, I don't make any motions here, it's just about the fuel cell project that has a WPAC scoping in it, in the contract that was sent to the attorney.
there's nothing to do with it
Sorry
at
for
this
the
point.
Okay. So it's just approved to go into contract. Go ahead, Rich, can you? Thank you.
So it would be a motion to authorize the first select woman to sign on behalf of the town of Seymour a contract with Johnson Controls, right? Johnson Controls. For the purpose of siting a fuel cell, two fuel cells on property owned by the town of Seymour, subject to approval by the town council. Does that work?
That motion works. If someone makes that motion works.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Bob.
He wants me to say it out.
Oh.
So I'll make a motion to
You want me to say it again?
authorize the first select.
I'd be happy to say it again. A motion to authorize the first select woman to enter into a contract on behalf of the town of Seymour with Johnson Controls for the purpose of siting two fuel cells on property owned by the town of Seymour, subject to approval by town council.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Bob.
It was a lot.
It was.
Seconded.
Second by Pat. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Noes? Abstentions?
I'm going to abstain tonight. It's just so much to take in. I'm not against it, but I'm not ready to vote, so I'm going to abstain.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries 6-0-1. Please note Trish's abstention. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion and possible action regarding cameras for the Choosh Town Park. I know, sometimes I just like getting Fred going. Town Park. As you know, in our last meeting, we discussed getting a security camera. We have the security camera. I will tell you where we're going to put it offline. I'm not going to say online where we're going to put it because of vandalism. But we do have the camera. So we are going to move forward with that.
And how is it being funded?
Rob Dyer.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Please tell us what our friend's at.
You know, all this is nice. Now, I'm not trying to be, pick on anybody or anything, but, it's townspeople's money here,
Yeah?
okay?
So, as you know, a couple of meetings ago, I was tasked with looking into the possibility of getting some camera coverage on that building. The initial cost that we got was pretty high because it required us to extend some internet connectivity coverage down to that area that we were looking at putting the cameras. We were able to kind of had a little, brainstorm and looked at the community center building itself, and we were able to replace one of the cameras that's currently on the community center, right, with a pan tilt zoom camera. I don't want to get into too much detail with it, but it basically allows us to capture the view, pretty close-up view of that area from the community center, eliminating the additional cost of putting internet connectivity equipment down in that area. So the cost has gotten scaled way, way back. We're working with Verkada, the camera vendor, and the installer to knock costs down even further. So right now we're looking at around a few $1,000s. Okay.
Okay.
Not a problem.
Well, when we first talked, there was several thousands.
It was upwards of $8,000.
Yeah. Yeah, it was several 8,000, like $8,000, and it's nowhere near that right now. Pardon?
Good investment.
It is.
Well, you pick up additional money from the sale of the land on Silver Mine Road, so we fund that.
There you go.
If I could just add one comment.
Go ahead.
I know this doesn't pertain to the cameras per se, or camera, but we really should be thinking about putting some signing down there, as unlike other areas of the town, we have our culture and arts people that are constantly down there decorating for whatever season it might be. So I think a sign would be appropriate with the new name as opposed to the Broad Street Park name.
So yeah, we're working on that.
Yeah.
We hope to have something at the next, I should say that, one of the meetings in August for you guys to kind of look at and comment.
That'd be nice, Mr. Moore.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, Mr. Lombardi.
Yes, we have the signs being designed.
And Fred's found some money up at Silvervine, so we're all set.
He found his coffee can.
That's right.
So discussion and possible action regarding the cameras for Chushtown Park, so there was really nothing on that one, right? No, okay. Transfers, there's no transfers in your packet. Tax refund and abatements, there's no tax refund and abatements either. Correspondence, I just received, a letter, as you see in your packet, from Mike Morganski, Birch Street, Seymour, request for staff land use council review. Birch Street to go for a CGS 824 referral. That is in your packet. And then just a letter from the Community Service Assistant, Tara Miller, to say that the Pumpkin Festival has sent in approval to use French Park for the Pumpkin Festival. And then I received a letter in from a Prudence Hayden stating, "Selectwoman, hello, it's me again, writing another letter to you to compliment another employee who works at the town dump. His name is Blake. I hope I spelled it correctly. And I've had to take 2 items, an old fax machine and a bathroom scale that did not work anymore. It said I was fat. I'm kidding. Just a little humor. But the gentleman who works there came out to greet me as I entered, and I guess seeing my license plate registered in Florida, he inquired where I lived, and I told him my address. And we are snowbirds, and I come back to our home every summer for 6 months, and I had 2 items to discard. Blake was very nice to advise me to pull up to the dumpster straight ahead, and he walked over there, and I opened the back of my truck to take the items out, and he was right there to take them out and put them in the bin for me. The fax machine was a little heavy, so I really appreciated his help. Would you please give him a copy of this letter to show how much I appreciated his help that day? He's truly an asset to the town of Seymour." I sent this over to Frank Gabinelli. So that will be also at the Public Works meeting, but Chris Pelosi also has a letter, so it will go in his file. But it's nice to hear positive work, positive for our employees. So that was it for correspondence. Public comment? Public comment? Public comment, no public comment. Select persons, public comment. We'll start with Pat Lombardi this time.
I'm good, thank you.
No comment from Pat.
I'm good this evening, thanks.
Trish?
I want to thank you and your team for all the work that you've done and that you want to do in the future. So I
Yeah.
personally really appreciate it. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Al?
Yeah, I think it's great that the trash was picked up. I'm just pretty stunned that it's 55 pounds. That's, it's great that it was picked up. It's pretty despicable that there was that much trash in our downtown area. So hopefully people won't be as piggish in the future. Maybe they can throw their trash out in their receptacles. Okay. Thanks, that's my comment.
It's time for us to consider nominations for the awards that we confer. So I think the awards committee needs to meet to set a schedule. I know next meeting, or August 5th meeting, we're having a public hearing at 6:15 and 6:30. Maybe the awards committee can meet at 6. We need 10 minutes.
On August 5th?
Yes. All right. We'll add that to get to the agenda. 6 at August 5th at 6:00 p.m.
Thank you.
That's it for me.
Hold on, Tracy. Go ahead.
I missed the last meeting, but I did watch the YouTube video. If I can just ask our town attorney to speak up a little bit in the mic, because it was hard to hear you on the video. And I love to hear
That's a
what you have to
first.
say, so,
I'm so soft-spoken.
thank you, thank you.
I'm not normally known as a soft-spoken
Thank you.
person.
I was listening for every word that you were saying.
Word you never heard.
Bated
But
breath.
there was a lot of
Hold
talk
on.
about paper roads. Can we get a list? I know there was like 3 paper roads we're talking about right now, right? Or,
couple.
or some town property or whatever. Can we get a list of the
Birch,
paper
Birch.
roads that we have? Sounds like there's more than I thought about. And then, you know, my heart and prayers go out to the Texas devastating flooding out there. You know, it's been almost a year since we went through that.
Oh, I know.
And just seeing what they're going through, I just feel for them, and I think we all do. So that's all I want to say on that, and that's enough for me for tonight. Thank you. We had a good meeting.
Thank you. Okay, on to my comments. I don't have to give the Bungie Road update because that was already given. Route 67 is almost done, as we can see, and I think it's looking a lot better than we all envisioned it was going to look. We talked about Clinton Road. We do have $49,000 in LoSiP money and Tibbetts Road, so I know they're going to work on Clinton and Tibbetts Road. Public Works has been out filling potholes and patching roads, as well as working on the drainage issue at Matthews Field. Matthews Field. Human Resource, they're going to repost the assessor's position. You know, I know this board voted on hiring at a much higher rate, but looking at it, we really need to keep in line with our budget. They posted for the AP position. Our finance director and accounting manager are going to go through the resumes that we have and pick 2 to 3 people to interview. Hopefully by August we'll have somebody. As we know, Route 67 Diner opened yesterday. They're going to do a ribbon cutting next week. The card store at Claridis Plaza passed its inspection today. They're planning to do a grand opening in August. Newport Academy is going through their final inspections. They plan on opening in the fall by having the residents there in the fall. They also, as you know, or maybe you don't know, have taken on their old restaurant of Olives and Oil, and that's going to be their cafeteria. In speaking to their contractor, they've invested in over $600,000 in that building alone. Dock 34 opened a new ice cream place, so it's nice to have ice cream on that side.
Is it possible to get a tour of Newport? Is it possible to see that when it opens?
Before it opens, before they have
Before they have
residents in there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see it.
Okay. Let me write that down. The 175th celebration was a great turnout. I just want to thank the Culture and Arts Committee as well as the Events Committee for coming together and putting that together. The fireworks show was great. The pony rides, the band was awesome. The high school football team came together. It was a great showing of everybody coming together. I'm happy to say the community center now has an outdoor movie theater. It's almost ready. We will be hosting our first movie on July 25th, and we're looking to hear some movie ideas.
We're in July, right? We're in
You're
July.
in July
Never mind.
25th.
Listen, it's 9:30.
So looking for movie ideas for into the summer and into the fall. I want to thank Pat Knott, Public Works, Facilities, and Kevin Reichel from Stellar's Garage for all the donations they gave to make that possible. Sabo Auto Body is almost ready. You know, they've had a lot of work done onto theirs. It looks nice. Now they're working on the inside. He should probably be ready to do a ribbon cut-in September, October sometime. Bushiban Trash Bash, you know, 55.5 pounds of trash. That was a lot. And I thank Mr. Alex for coming up with the idea. You know, these kids that are coming out of the ward work with all these ideas, Alex and Bushiban, food for kids. Now today I met with Kids for Kids, they are going to be, there's 4 high school students, Michael and Ryan Bendetto, and Anthony and Gianna Garfalo. Juniors, sophomores, and freshmen at the Seymour High School, 4 kids coming together. They said, hey, we want to do something for our community. And, you know, John and Lori Nespoli in the town, we all get together and we do the scavenger hunt backpack, fill the backpack event. They wanted to do something, and they are putting boxes throughout town to get new school supplies and collect all the school supplies for the kids. They're going to be passing them out at the Fill the Backpack event that's going to be held on August 15th at the community center. I love how our younger generation is getting involved. They're stepping up, not stepping up, they're stepping in to help the unity in our community. So I love how our small town is coming together on that. As we know, House Bill 500 was vetoed. Was vetoed, so
Hold on.
hold on.
But thank you for your explanation last month.
Did you
Or last
get?
meeting. I heard it.
Okay. I held the tax talks and budgets, residents coming out. There's one more tomorrow. I have one of my green initiatives this year is to go paperless. So I'd like to start in September by going paperless with our packets. And we're going to look at an IT solution to have maybe the laptops or something here that we can review all our packets. The packets we mail to you electronically like they are, but we're trying to cut the cost down and not print the packets and have them sent to you electronically so you can view them on that way. That's one of my green initiatives. I know, Teresa doesn't like that. We're still gonna have the paper copy for the town clerk's office, absolutely. But for us electronically, and if there's something big that we need to look at, we'll have a paper copy here. But we're looking at to do that with the Board of Selectmen as well as the Board of Finance. All goes well, we'll branch out to other boards. There is one other board that is doing that currently now. Advancing Hero Fund in memory of Jeff Verlick will be holding their gala on July 19th. I also once again congratulate Fred Stanek on receiving the Scouting Award. It was very nice to be there to present to you.
Thank you for your very kind words.
Oh, you're welcome, but you deserve them. And just to let you know, the fiscal budget season for '27 has started, and we are starting to do the background and preliminary data collection, but it actually kicks off on October 1st, where we'll start meeting with the department heads and getting their input from that. And with that, I adjourn the meeting. Sorry it took until 9:35. I hope everyone has a great night. I think it started to rain out there, so please drive